State and federal agencies, nonprofits, and other groups have spent more than $3 billion over the past quarter century for some 800 projects aimed to protect and improve Lake Tahoe.
Ground beneath California is moving.
We're talking movements that are maybe the width of 2 stacked pennies every year.
The number is 6,229 feet above sea level. Lake Tahoe pressing against its absolute legal maximum, at the limit. Billions of tons of water with nowhere left to go. 5 years ago, this same lake was dying. Drought had stripped it so bare that ancient tree stumps were re-emerging along the shoreline. Scientists warned California's water crisis could be permanent. Then the skies broke open. Atmospheric rivers slammed the Sierra Nevada in waves. Snowpack hit 237% of normal. The lake gained 4 full feet in a single season. Water managers released maximum legal flows downstream. It was not enough. By early 2024, Tahoe had surged back and kept climbing. Headlines called it California's water miracle. Swimmers returned to beaches that had been cracked and dry just 2 years earlier. But while the cameras pointed at the surface, some scientists were staring at something else entirely. Something underneath. The secret beneath the surface. Here is a question worth sitting with. What happens when one of the most spectacular lakes in North America fills to its absolute maximum, directly above a fault that has not moved in 4,000 years? Most people never think to ask that. Most people never know they should. The West Tahoe Fault is a geological fracture running approximately 25 miles directly beneath the lake bed. It is not a minor crack in the earth. It is a massive, complex network of interconnected fault segments capable of generating an earthquake up to magnitude 7.3. To put that in context, the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake that collapsed freeways, ignited fires, and devastated the San Francisco Bay Area measured 6.9. A magnitude 7.3 releases approximately 2.5 times more energy than that. Not slightly more, 2.5 times more. Geologists and seismologists from the University of Nevada and the United States Geological Survey have spent years extracting sediment cores from the bottom of Lake Tahoe, studying underwater fault scarps, and piecing together the ancient record of ruptures preserved in rock and silt. Their conclusion does not leave much room for comfort. The West Tahoe Fault last ruptured approximately 4,000 years ago. Based on the fault's slip rate and the strain it has been accumulating since then, scientists calculate it is now overdue. 4,000 years of pressure building inside fractured bedrock. 4,000 years of tension pulling and twisting rock that will, at some point, reach its absolute breaking limit. And now, right now, billions of tons of water are pressing down on top of it. How water triggers earthquakes. Water is heavier than most people realize. A single cubic foot weighs 62 pounds. Lake Tahoe at maximum capacity holds approximately 39 trillion gallons. Run those numbers and what you get is a staggering, almost incomprehensible weight pressing down on the lake bed every single second of every single day. But the weight alone is not the most dangerous part. Water moves, it seeps, it infiltrates. When that volume of water sits above a fractured fault system, it works its way into every crack, every crevice, every microscopic gap in the bedrock below. Geologists call what happens next an increase in pore pressure, and it is the mechanism that terrifies earthquake scientists most. Pore pressure reduces friction, the friction that keeps fault surfaces locked together, the friction that prevents all that accumulated strain from releasing at once. Water quietly, invisibly dissolves it. It lubricates the fault plane from the inside. It makes it easier for thousands of years of built-up tension to suddenly, violently, catastrophically let go. This is not theoretical. Large bodies of water triggering earthquakes is documented fact. In 1967, India's Koyna Dam Reservoir triggered a magnitude 6.3 earthquake that killed 180 people. Lake Mead behind Hoover Dam has generated hundreds of small earthquakes since it filled in the 1930s. China's Zipingpu Reservoir may have contributed to the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, a disaster that killed nearly 70,000 people. Scientists still debate the full extent of that connection, but the pattern exists across multiple continents and multiple decades. The phenomenon even has a name: induced seismicity. Lake Tahoe is now at maximum capacity, maximum weight, maximum pore pressure, maximum force bearing down on a fault that was already overdue before the first drop of this latest surge arrived. Ask yourself this: if you knew a geological bomb had been building pressure for 4 millennia, would you want to know the moment someone poured billions of tons of weight on top of it? The seismographs already have their answer. The instruments are talking. The instruments do not lie, and right now they are telling scientists something unsettling. Monitoring stations positioned around the Tahoe Basin have begun recording increased seismic activity along the West Tahoe fault system. Magnitude 1.9 tremors. Too small to feel. Too small for any headline to notice. But the seismographs feel everything, and researchers are paying very close attention to what the data is showing. Seismologists call this microseismic activity, and its significance is not in any single tremor, it is in the pattern. Before major earthquake events, fault systems often exhibit this exact behavior: a quiet escalation in small ruptures along fault segments as accumulated strain pushes toward a breaking point. It happened before the 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan. It has appeared before other major ruptures worldwide. The baseline is shifting. Activity levels that would have seemed routine 5 years ago now appear elevated against the backdrop of maximum water pressure pressing down on the fault from above. Scientists monitor these readings around the clock, mapping the location of every tremor, measuring its depth, tracking the frequency week by week. They cannot tell you when the fault will fail. That is the brutal limitation at the heart of earthquake science. Prediction remains beyond reach. A fault can hold for another century past its average rupture interval. Or it can fail next week. The Earth does not announce its schedule. What scientists can tell you is this: an overdue fault, under maximum water load, with increasing microseismic activity, represents a combination that no credible researcher is willing to dismiss. Every element alone would demand attention. Together, they demand urgency. The tsunami. No one is prepared for. Now comes the part that most people living around Lake Tahoe have never been told. If the West Tahoe fault ruptures while the lake sits at maximum capacity, the earthquake is only the beginning. Lake Tahoe plunges to depths exceeding 1,600 feet, with near-vertical underwater walls in sections. Massive slopes of loose sediment cling to those steep gradients throughout the lakebed. A magnitude 7.3 earthquake would shake those formations with force that the human brain struggles to comprehend. Scientists believe the result would be catastrophic underwater landslides, millions upon millions of tons of sediment collapsing into the lake's depths simultaneously. When that much displaced material hits that much water that fast, it does not just create ripples, it creates a tsunami. And this is not speculation. The geological record confirms it has happened before. Researchers studying ancient lakebed sediments have identified the deposits from prehistoric underwater landslides. One event, the McKinney Bay landslide, moved approximately 12 cubic miles of material in a single prehistoric catastrophe. Modern modeling of a similar event projects waves potentially reaching 30 feet or higher, traveling across the lake at speeds approaching 100 miles per hour. Here is the geography that makes this so dangerous. Lake Tahoe is only 12 miles wide at its broadest point. A tsunami generated on one side of the lake reaches the opposite shoreline in minutes. Not hours, minutes. Ocean-facing communities have tsunami warning systems, evacuation routes, sirens, and sometimes hours of advance notice before waves arrive. Lake Tahoe has none of that infrastructure. The earthquake and the wave arrive almost simultaneously. Communities would feel the ground shaking and see the water rising within the same terrible, terrifying minutes. And the enclosed basin creates another layer of horror. Unlike ocean tsunamis that dissipate across open water, a lake tsunami reflects off the surrounding shoreline, bouncing back and forth, striking communities again and again. The first wave is not the last. The people in the path. Think about who lives here. Approximately 55,000 people call the Lake Tahoe Basin home year-round. But on peak summer weekends, that number swells past 100,000 visitors. During ski season, the resorts and Nevada casinos fill with thousands more. On major holiday weekends, the population around the lake can triple. These people, residents and visitors alike, would have minutes to respond. Most would not even understand what was happening until the wave was already in motion. The roads that feed in and out of Tahoe are two-lane mountain highways. Route 28 along the north shore, Highway 50 winding through the south, Route 89 tracing the western edge. During normal summer traffic, these roads already jam with vacationers. During a mass evacuation triggered by a major earthquake, with bridges potentially damaged, with panicked drivers, with zero warning time, they would become impassable. The jurisdictional picture makes it worse. Lake Tahoe straddles California and Nevada. 5 counties share responsibility for shoreline communities. 2 state governments, multiple fire districts, dozens of local agencies that would need to instantly coordinate a response to a crisis unfolding in real time, with no rehearsed plan, no tsunami sirens on the shoreline, and no evacuation zones designed for this specific threat. Property values along this shoreline exceed $15 billion. Luxury homes, historic resorts, commercial districts serving millions of annual visitors, all of it built on the assumption that the beautiful blue water is harmless. What science knows and can't tell us. Inside monitoring stations scattered around the basin, scientists continue doing the only thing they can: watching, recording, analyzing. The technology is better than it has ever been. GPS stations measuring ground deformation down to millimeters, satellite imagery tracking surface changes invisible to the human eye, seismic networks detecting events too small to register in human senses. And yet the fundamental limitation remains. The West Tahoe Fault will rupture. That is not opinion. It is geological certainty. Faults that accumulate strain eventually release it. This is physics. The only open questions are when and how violently. Funding for research on this fault remains a fraction of what flows toward the San Andreas. No major rupture in living memory keeps it in public consciousness. No Hollywood films dramatize its threat. Most of the millions of people who visit Lake Tahoe every year have never heard of the West Tahoe Fault and have no idea they are swimming, boating, and building their lives above one of California's most dangerous and least discussed geological hazards. The question that won't go away. The water sits at 6,229 feet, maximum capacity, maximum pressure. The fault has been waiting 4,000 years. The tremors are registering on instruments that do not sleep. And here is the question that every seismologist studying this region carries with them. The question that grows heavier with each new data point, each new tremor, each passing day that the lake holds at its limit. Has the fault beneath America's most beautiful lake finally reached its limit too? The surface is calm, impossibly blue. Tourists are arriving. Families are swimming. Life continues as though the danger does not exist, because most people do not know it does. Now you know. Share this. Talk about it. Ask your local representatives what emergency plans exist for this exact scenario, because the one thing scientists, geologists, and seismologists all agree on is that the West Tahoe Fault is not a question of if. It is a question of when. And when it answers, the people living and vacationing along that shoreline deserve to be ready. If this video opened your eyes to a risk you had never considered, drop a comment below and tell us, would you live along the Lake Tahoe shoreline knowing what you now know? The answer might surprise you.